Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Now let's get straight into a conversation for tonight. Joining me from Abuja studio is Emmanuel Anene, is a lawyer and also a public affairs analyst. Good evening to you, Mr. Anene. Thank you so much for joining us on Politics Tonight. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening, Nigerians. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's an interesting conversation tonight. So let's start this conversation with the president's message to his cabinet members upon inauguration. Because I remember that while swearing in the new ministers in 2023, President Tinubu charged his cabinet members to return public faith in government so that Nigerians could once again believe in government. But the capacity of some of the appointees of the president has been questioned by Nigerians. For you, do they have what it takes to deliver?
Yeah, that's a very nice question. Even in America, where we borrowed our democracy from, President Obama, former President Obama once said, there is no quick fix to American problem. That's a democracy that has lingered for over 200 years and still counting. So President Tinubu inherited a lot of problems. We cannot expect President Tinubu to have a quick fix. We cannot also expect the ministers to just fine-tune it in a magic wand and get the whole system working. We know the system, where the system was when Mr. President took office. The system was in shambles, the system was shattered. But what the Mr. President is doing is to deliver on his mandate. And I have believed that ministers appointed by President Tinubu will deliver on the campaign promises of the president. Now, if President Obama, with all the infrastructure, with all the development of America, believe that there is no quick fix to their problem, Nigeria should also not be in haste to have a quick fix to their own problem as well. Now, in America, there is what we call midterm report. You understand? We are in 1 year and we are counting. We've not even gotten to the midterm for us to begin to judge whether President Tinubu is delivering 100% on her campaign promises or not. But what is on ground, like happily today, the Port Harcourt refinery is coming on stream. And so many things are coming on stream. Like what he said, the reform by President Tinubu is yielding results. And that is what Nigerians should be happy about. Even though there is inflation in the economy, even though there are problems here and there, but is there the might, is there the will to address those things? I think I'm seeing it in Mr. President. And that should encourage Nigerians to give him support within this 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to see whether he will deliver. There's no way Mr. President will just took out of office 2003 and fix every problem in the twinkle of an eye. Look at the issue of security. Is Mr. President addressing it? Yes. At a point, the issue of insecurity is one problem that is troubling the whole country. But believe me today, at the risk of sounding immodest, Mr. President has been able to address the insecurity problem around Nigeria. Has he completely addressed it? The answer is no. But does he have the will? Is there the desirability to do it? The answer is yes. And that is what I'm happy about. Before in Abuja here, Abuja became a no-go area in the night. The insecurity was so much that people were frightened in Abuja here. But those things are coming to pass. And that is why we're happy with what Mr. President is doing, even though these reforms will come with a lot of misgivings. But at the end of the day, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Mr. Anene, but it looks like the president's mandate is something very important to his supporters, and quite assuring is the mantra of the president, which is renewed hope. I mean, this means a lot of things to different people. For some, it's availability of power. Others, just being able to put food on their table, pay children's school fees, house rent. The list goes on. But in proper perspective, are these appointees able to deliver on the president's mandate?
You know, you can't expect every member of Mr. President's cabinet to run at the same speed. Some people, even if you go to Olympics, some people concentrate on 100 meters dash, some people in endurance race, and stuff like that. That is why Mr. President redigged his cabinet a few months ago. So you cannot expect everybody to be performing at his own speed. But the most important thing is that the people who are given opportunity to perform and are not performing, the president will yank them off and bring in new persons that will deliver on his mandate. That is the most important thing. Mr. President will not be a soothsayer to know the appointee that will perform or the appointee that will not perform. The most important thing is that if an appointee is given opportunity to deliver and he could not deliver, he has himself to blame, because they have not told us that this is what they are lacking or this is what they are lacking. If Mr. President provides an enabling environment and the necessary fund for any of the appointees to perform, another appointee did not perform, then Mr. President will yank off the person immediately.
Let's talk about the image makers of the president. We have Sunday Derrick, who was Special Advisor on Public Communication and National Orientation. He has a new designation as Special Advisor, Media and Public Communications. We also have Daniel Bwala, who was announced as Special Advisor, Media and Public Communication, but is now the Special Advisor of Policy Communication. And according to the presidency, the shake-up is aimed at ensuring effective and consistent communication of government policies, decisions and engagement. What's your assessment?
Yeah, number one, I want to tell Nigerians that it is the exclusive right of Mr. President to appoint anybody and so designate that person so appointed the office that that person will perform. The most important thing is the job. Let's do away with all this nomenclature, whether this person is on policy or whether this person is on communication. The most important thing is that, Mr. President's policy should be communicated, effectively communicated to Nigerians in a way that Nigerians will have a buy-in into Mr. President's policies and programs. Now, at the end of the first President Tinubu's first year in office, the issue was there was not enough communication around the performance of Mr. President and his cabinet. And they needed a way that these people who are communicating Mr. President policy should be beefed up. And that was why Mr. President looked and brought Mr. Bwala in. Does Mr. Bwala has the capacity to do the needful? The answer is yes. Is he doing it? The answer is yes. Is he being a supporter of Mr. President? The answer is yes. The most important thing is that Mr. President appointed Mr. Bwala to deliver on his mandate, to ensure that the policy of Mr. President is communicated to Nigerians effectively. And I have no doubt in the capacity of Mr. Bwala to do so, and has been doing so effectively. That's the most important thing. Whether it's SA media, whether it's SA communication, the most important thing is the job. Let's look at the job. Let's not look at the nomenclature, because people are saying, I had some persons in APC having misgivings about why Bwala. The issue of supporting Mr. President is a different thing. We have to separate it. During the election, yes, Mr. President have a lot of supporters, but now that the President is in office, the most important thing now is the issue of governance. And that governance should be communicated to Nigerians. So Mr. President is looking for a person that will communicate his policies and programs effectively to Nigerians. And Bwala will be a round peg in a round hole to do the needful, and he has been doing it. So people who are complaining that, no, he left our party, he did this, he didn't do that. Mr. President cannot appoint everybody into a particular office. He looks at your capacity to deliver. If you have the capacity to so deliver in such area, Mr. President will appoint you. And that is exactly what he did. Forgetting that Daniel Bwala is a lawyer, he's a very good communicator, he's intelligent, and he's master of his words. And he has been communicating Mr. President policy effectively and efficiently to Nigerians. All those persons who are complaining about Mr. Bwala's appointment have not said anything about his competence. They have not also said anything about his credibility. They have not also said anything about his ability to communicate the policies and programs of Mr. President. What they are saying is politics at a point in life of a nation.
So you're saying the backlash is unfounded, Mr. Nene? So you're saying the backlash is unfounded and unnecessary. Is that it?
No, the backlash is a distraction, because what I'm seeing is people who want to criticize Mr. President, they will hide under that appointment and be criticizing Mr. President. They are distracting Mr. President. But Mr. President shouldn't be distracted by those backlash. It's unnecessary. He has about 4,000 to 5,000 appointments to make. One single appointment should not overshadow every other thing. The issue is this. Ask anybody who is complaining about Bwala's appointment, has he anything against Mr. Bwala's capacity? The answer is no. Has he anything about Bwala's credibility? The answer is no. Has he seen anything about Bwala's ability to deliver? The answer is no. The only thing is that he left us. He left us. Who are us in this case? We're talking about the persons who appointed have been unable to communicate their modest achievement to Nigerians. Mr. President cannot sit down and watch his modest achievement not being communicated to Nigerians. He is looking for somebody. What Mr. President is looking right now He's somebody that will market his policies and programs for Nigeria. And that is what's important to him now. And when the time comes, he will look into the supporters and also patronize them if that is what you want. Because everything is about patronage in Nigeria. No, we worked for Mr. President, he did not patronize us. Who says Daniel Bola did not work for Mr. President? All through the years of Buhari in government, Daniel Bola has been effectively working for APC. He worked for Mr. President all through the primaries. Even those who did not even support Mr. President during the primaries are claiming that, oh, Mr. President abandoned us. If he did not emerge in the primaries, would he have been president of Nigeria? The answer is no. So Daniel Bola is a very good communicator, and he has come back to communicate Mr. President's policies to Nigeria, and that is the most important thing. If Nigerians do not have buy-in into these policies, then there will be misgivings around Nigeria, and that will be harmful to Mr. President's administration.
All right, Mr. Nene, let's look at other sectors and the ministers overseeing these ministries. Education, for instance, the president has continued to emphasize on his commitment to education, which he described as critical if the country must be free from poverty and hunger. With a new Minister for Education, that's Tunji Alausa, how do you evaluate some recent policy shifts?
You know, the former Minister of Education just created unnecessary controversy as to the age within which somebody will write WAEC or not. That was needless. That was a distraction. You know, believe me, the moment we have this minister, that reversal, you know, there was joy around the country. You can't stampede some persons because some persons were not going at the same rate. Because like what I said before, some people are interested in 100 meters dash. Some people are interested in endurance race. Everybody should be allowed to grow in his own capacity. Education is at the bedrock of any nation. If we fail to get our education policies right, it's going to harm Nigeria in the future. And that was why that change became necessary. And no Nigerian have questioned that change. No Nigerian have questioned the current minister's appointment about his credibility, his credibility and competence. And he has delivered that single policy trickle down to average Nigerians. Because if you now say, okay, if you are not 18 years and above, you cannot write WAEC, you are going to stampede a lot of people. You are going to stagnate a lot of people. It's going to trickle down. It's going to cause a lot of confusion within the educational system. And that is why this reform is become necessary, that Mr. President should look for somebody that will drive his renewed hope agenda. And that is exactly what he did. And I have the belief that Tunji Alausa will do a lot of reforms in education. He's just barely a few months in office. He should be given time, like 6 months, 1 year. Within this time, we can now come back here and judge whether he has been able to deliver or not. But the former minister created unnecessary controversy that overshadowed the modest achievement so far made in the educational sector.
All right, so with the latest developments in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development and with Architect Ahmed Dangiwa as minister, how significant is it that the Ministry of Housing is now an independent ministry? Before now, it used to be the Ministry of Works and Housing, but now the Ministry of Works and Urban Development. What level of knowledge or understanding would you say the minister has about the sector, especially at this time where the KPAs and the KPIs of the president must be tightened? And you would agree with me that before now, we had ministers overseeing a ministry but never made any impact.
You know, if you come to Nigeria, for instance, there is shortage of houses in Nigeria. And when you junk Minister of Housing and Minister of Transport and Minister of Works and Housing together, we miss it. Because the most important, Nigerians are interested in housing. Nigerians are also interested in the quality of their roads. So when you junk those things together, then the capacity of the minister to carry on, he will be overburdened. The minister will be overburdened. So, and that was why Mr. President intelligently severed the ministry, so that critical attention will be given to housing, which Nigerians are in dire need of. Then critical attention should also be given to Nigerian roads. Now, I don't have any doubt that the person so appointed as Minister of Housing now will deliver, because Nigerians are in dire. There are policies on ground to build houses for Nigeria at affordable rates. You know, even though the rising cost of building materials these days, the minister will work around it to ensure that those mandates or the actions given to him by the Mr. President to perform, he will deliver on it.
You know, I asked that question because some Nigerians have spoken about how, for the first time, there is a consideration of fit for purpose and excellence far above political patronage. But for some other Nigerians, the question here really isn't about capacity, but in some cases, character. While we have capable men and women in abundance, we seem to lack politicians, both elected and appointed, who have both character and integrity. Is this really a challenge in governance?
No, you see, at this critical point in time, what Nigerians should be interested in, Mr. President made promises. He should be allowed to select persons that will assist him in driving those policies. And Nigerians should wait for the result. If you are talking about capacity to deliver, it becomes an interesting topic. If you are talking about credibility, it becomes a distraction. There is no living Nigerian that will appoint today that Nigerians will not have one, two things to say against the person or in person's favor. So let's look more at the capacity to deliver, because we are interested in delivering on Mr. President's mandate, on Mr. President's campaign promises, and on the actions given to the person appointed to deliver. If the person fails, let us hold him accountable on the account of his failure to perform, not about his credibility. If somebody is said not to be so credible, and the person is giving Nigerians what we want, so which one is more important to us? What is important to me as a Nigerian is that we have an affordable housing. We have a good road that will be motorable. People are planning to travel during Christmas. Nigerians who may not be interested, Nigerians may not even know who the minister is. What Nigerians are interested in, that the road is motorable, that they can afford, that they can find an affordable housing, that those things, those irreducible minimum things in life at his beck and call. He may not be interested in who Mr. President appointed to deliver those things, if the things are working. And that is the
I hear you, Mr. Nene, but I think it's also very important.
Looking for appointments.
But I think it's also very important for you to speak to the need for effective interagency collaboration and coordination, which looks like a critical success factor for the newly reinvigorated FEC in terms of strategy and policy making.
You see, the most important thing is that I think we have coordinating Minister of Economy, coordinating Minister of Defense. That is a fine way to go. If you have coordinating Minister of Economy, he should oversee the agencies and ministries that are under economy. That will enhance the workability of the system. If you have a coordinating Minister of Health, the same thing should happen. Now we should also have coordinating Minister of Defense, because security is an issue in Nigeria. We should have somebody in agriculture. So all those, at the end of the day, you find out that each ministry is working in tandem with another ministry for the good of Nigerians and for those ministries to deliver on Mr. President's mandate. At the end of the day, Nigerians are not going to look at those ministers whether they are performing or not. They should look at Mr. President's Renew Hope agenda and work on it, because that is the report card Mr. President will give to Nigerians at the end of the day. Whether they have the capacity or not is not what we're interested in. We're interested in the fact that they are delivering. If they cannot deliver, they should put up their resignation letter and go. So all these ministers, like economy, like health, like defense, they should work in tandem with each other and ensure that Mr. President's renewed agenda is effected.
Absolutely. With few minutes to wrap up, I think we should wrap up with this, because the president is asking for collaboration with citizens in rebuilding the nation. What message do you have for Nigerians as we continue to trust that government policies and initiatives will yield positive results?
Yeah, like, you know, people in APC or people who claim to work for Mr. President should also allow Mr. President to make certain appointments that he feels that will drive his mandate. Like the appointments so far made by Mr. President in accordance with the spirit that lets him that Mr. Bola will drive his policies and program. Now, Nigerians should look at Bola in the face and ask him certain questions about Mr. President's policy on taxation, Mr. President policy on CNG, Mr. President policy on health, and all those things. They should not do away with all this primordial sentiment. Oh, we work for Mr. President. Mr. President is looking the other way. He's not appointing us, he's appointing us. Whoever Mr. President, if you trust Mr. President with your mandate, you should also trust him in whoever he appointed to drive those mandates you have given to him. And that is why I say that those people who are in APC...
Sadly, we have to wrap up. It's a 30-minute conversation for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, sir. Mr. Emmanuel Anene is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and good evening, Nigerians.
And thank you so much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumo KW using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumo Olatunji. Good night, everyone.